I'm here in the garden of the Vicar of West Hucknall, Joe Stevens. I understand today you were supposed to renew your ordination vows, but unfortunately you couldn't due to quarantine. So we're just going to ask a few questions, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So could you explain your journey to God?
Oh gosh. So I really became a Christian when I was about 30 after having my son. I was really poorly after having him, and I just wanted to say thank you to something, and I decided that maybe that thank you was to God, and started going to church with my mother-in-law then started going to a prayer and pray service with toddlers, and went from there really.
And I understand it's Church of England.
Yeah, although myself and my son started going to a Methodist church with my mother-in-law, and it was only when we went to the prayer and praise service that was in the Church of England church that I began down that route.
Oh, okay. So could you just explain what being ordained is, what it actually means?
Yeah, so I think I always explain it as you're ordained first a deacon and then you're ordained a priest. And as a priest, it's kind of like that's your qualification, and then being a vicar is your job. So as a priest you could be a chaplain in a hospital or in a prison or do various other work or ministry, but as I'm a priest, I'm currently a vicar in West Hucknall.
Oh, okay, so you had to do a qualification.
Yes, so you go through a long process of being selected. Then you have a 3-day interview overnight. Yeah, that was a thing. And then you go attend college. I went to St John's Theological College in Bramcote in Nottingham, and I did 3 years there, got a degree in theology and ministry, and then you do a further 4 years of training in what's called a curacy.
And what's that?
So a curacy is like, when you're a curate, you're a trainee vicar. And you basically shadow and are taught by and follow somebody else around who's already a vicar with some years of experience, and then they finish off your training. So it takes 7 years in total before you're allowed to apply to have your own church.
Oh my gosh. So why did you want to be ordained?
How did that happen? So it was really other people saying that I should be ordained. I went away to a course where I was learning more about Christianity, and the people I made friends with there kind of didn't know at first, but they were all getting ordained, and they all assumed I was getting ordained, which I thought was just the most ridiculous idea. I came home and said to my husband that everybody on this course had thought I should be ordained. And he said that he thought it was a good idea as well, which was a really big surprise to me. And then my vicar at the time, I said the same to her, and she was like, yeah, you should look into it, you should look at being ordained. And then you go through many interviews and visit many people. That can be a really hard process for some people. But for me, because I was so ignorant as to how any of this worked, I just kept having lots of cups of tea with people, really, and they kept putting me forward to the next stage, and unbeknownst to me, that meant that I then got selected eventually.
So did you get married and then have your son prior to going into religion then?
Yeah, so when I got married, I wasn't a Christian. We were married for 7 years before I had my son. And then pretty much as soon as he was born was when I started exploring faith. So yeah, that was kind of a significant thing for me. So we'd been married for 9-10 years when I was a Christian. So for our 10th wedding anniversary, we got our wedding blessed in church, because then it was really significant for me to have the blessing of God on our marriage.
Oh. So what's your typical week like, considering you only work on Sundays?
Well, obviously, yeah. So that joke never wears thin. Obviously, I only work on Sundays. Oh gosh, it's such a varied job. It's just amazing, really. And I think if I start to list everything that it involves, I'm going to forget stuff.
Yeah.
Because one of the things about being a vicar, think one of the things for me, and you asked me about the Church of England earlier, and one of the things for me about the Church of England is as the vicar for a parish, you've got the purest souls of everybody in that parish. So even the people that don't go to church, you feel some sense of responsibility to try and connect them with God, to enable that positive influence in their life. So you're not only involved with church and the administration and with the wider parish and deanery and diocese, but you're also involved and care for the people who don't even come across the church threshold. So that would involve school ministry, assemblies, supporting staff in schools. It would involve the nursing homes, and it involves the many knocks on the door that you get, from people needing to borrow a bottle of oil to people asking for money, to anything from the unfortunate demise of one of their pets, or in even more difficult things that just knock on your door. You never know what you're going to answer the door to, and that doesn't only happen on a Sunday.
Does it create quite a strong sense of community then?
I hope so. I think that takes time. I've been in this parish now for 8 years, and I certainly feel a strong connection to the community. And over that 8 years, inevitably, even just through weddings and funerals and community events, you begin to see the same people all the time, and they begin to see me all the time as well. So I feel a real connection to this area of Hucknall.
What's your favourite church service?
Oh gosh, favourite church service. Well, we're in Holy Week at the moment when we're talking to each other, and so we're working up to Good Friday, which is also always a solemn service, but can be deeply moving, and it strikes me every year the sadness of Christ's sacrifice. And Good Friday is really the service that brings that home. But then as you work through Holy Week and you work through Good Friday and the liminal place that is Easter Saturday, we have a service on Saturday evenings called the Saturday Vigil. And that's a service that not many people go to, which is a shame because it's a great service, but that means there's a real intimacy to it. We start off in the hall in darkness, and then we move outside and we light the big candle in church, the really big one, Paschal candle it's called. We light that from a fire. And then is when the amusement starts, really, because inevitably this Paschal candle gets blown out by the wind, and various people try various different methods to keep that candle alight. And then other people light candles as they come into church. And there's a liturgical process of what we do on that service, which used to be quite complicated. But now I've done it for 8 years, it's fine, like I really enjoy it. And then we have a bit of the service where people renew their baptism vows and they get sprinkled with water. And the way we do that in our church is to sprinkle them with water with a leaf or a branch from the garden. So that's normally quite fun as well. And then that whole service on that Saturday evening, that's the beginning of the lifting of the mood to celebrating Christ's resurrection on Easter Sunday, and that is a really joyous service. If that includes a baptism, a full immersion baptism, which we have in our church, if it includes young people coming for their first communion, it's just really, really special. So yeah, I think those services, those three really in that one weekend, are really special.
So what do you do outside of church?
So I've got a few hobbies. I do like to run, and I try and run most days really. We're really lucky where we live in West Hucknall. We've got lovely fields and hills, and I'm so relieved that even in lockdown I'm still allowed to go for my run every day, so I can carry on doing that. I like to draw and be creative, and sometimes that's enabled through my ministry, so I enjoy creative things. What else? We like going to the theatre, watching comedians, going to the cinema, going out for food, so seeing family and playing games together. So yeah, just being with the people you love.
Have you had any difficult experiences being a vicar?
Yeah, quite a few. They come in all different shapes and sizes, really. I think I'm okay when a crisis hits. So if you get that knock on the door with somebody who's meeting a crisis, I can kind of deal with that okay. I think it's harder sometimes when you think you're going to attend to one thing and something else happens. That's what causes me more stress, I think. And of course, any difficulty in ministry, doing funerals is really, really sad. And funerals for young people, for babies, they have to be the worst. I don't think I ever want to get used to doing that.
No. So, what's something that's made you proud to be a vicar?
Do you know what? Funnily, it might even be those same things that are difficult. When you feel like you can bring God into a situation where nothing else is helping, where actually death has already come or death is fast approaching. I remember going into intensive care unit to see somebody from church, and the consultant was there, all the nurses were around the bed, and the consultant said, "Step aside, the priest is here." And I said, "Oh gosh, no, finish what you're doing, I'll just wait, it's absolutely fine." And he said, "No," he said, "my work's done, I'm handing over to you now." And that was amazing, that there was respect, I think, for knowing that God was needed in that situation. And sometimes all you can do as a priest is be the person that opens the door to God for other people to be able to access him.
So as a vicar, do you read the Bible every day?
Yeah, I do. I sit at my kitchen table, and I do actually do at the moment Celtic morning prayer every day, and that kind of gives you some wisdom writings as well. And then for my Bible reading, I always read the Bible in a year. So it gives you 3 different lots of Bible readings for every day, and then throughout the year, as you read the entire Bible in a year. So I find that really helpful.
Do you have a favourite verse?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about that for you interviewing me today, and there's a Bible verse that really speaks to me about my role as being a vicar, and it's written by St. Paul to Timothy in his first letter to Timothy. And Timothy was somebody who was a Christian who was learning how to be a minister in the early church, and St. Paul wrote him 2 letters of instructions as to how to be as a minister. So can I read that?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah? So it's 1 Timothy chapter 4, beginning at the 12th verse. So quite a high ideal for being a minister, something to aim at, not something that I achieve. Set the believers an example in speech and conduct, in love, in faith, in purity. Give attention to the public reading of Scripture, to exhorting, to teaching. Do not neglect the gift that is given to you. Put these things into practice. Devote yourself to them so that all may see your progress. Pay close attention to yourself and to your teaching. Continue in these things, for in doing this, you will save both yourself and your hearers. So if that feels quite heavy, but really something to remind yourself as to our daily goal and daily aim in being ordained as a priest.
Has anything funny or unusual ever happened?
Oh golly, yeah, funny and unusual stuff happens all the time, but I don't think I can tell you all of them. As I say, I think it's when the unusual happens at unusual times. So there was one incident where somebody needed some help, but part of the help that they needed, and it was kind of like, it was crucial to them at the time, but they were really distressed and they really needed a cigarette, and they only had roll-ups. Now, I'm not a saint, but I've never smoked in my life, so I was like, oh no, and this poor person, to help them get through their distress, really needed to have a fag at the time. And I was desperately trying to think about how to solve this problem, and suddenly remembered that my teenage son also smoked roll-ups. So I kind of like sent somebody over, and they grabbed hold of my teenage son, and they were like, we really need your ministry. And he came over to church, he rolled this lady a fag, and it would kind of helped to just calm her nerves and lead us forward so we could solve some other problems. And it was one of those days which was just a really great example of how a church family works, actually, that all of us together have different skills and different ministries, and God put us all together as a family, and all of those skills and ministries can be used to the benefit of others, and that's what we're all about.
Thank you for answering my questions so honestly and for being here.
I know, thank you. No, it's great. Just a shame we can't be with the church family. Maybe we'll do it again one Sunday morning. Thank you.